Hello and a very warm welcome to all of you. I'm Neha Bharadwaj Alter. Australia are in complete control of the World Test Championship final at the Oval in London. That's right, India are struggling, and how? Not only were their bowlers struggling on day one and day two, but then when the Indian batters came into bat, Australian bowlers really showed how to bowl in those conditions. India were reduced to 151 for 5 in reply to their first innings total of 469. Now, before this big final began, I'd said whoever adapts to the conditions here better will win the mace. Clearly, not only did Australia adapt better, they went in with the right playing 11 in this game. Unlike India, who looked like they'd been given an out-of-course question paper, it seemed like there was no preparation, no planning, absolute lack of clarity and faulty decision-making by the management. So India trailed by 318 runs and they find themselves on the verge of losing another ICC title yet again. They can still turn it around. 318 runs is what they are trailing by. And the pitch is offering seam movement, there is uneven bounce, and the Australian bowlers know how exactly to use all of that to their advantage. What can India do to recover from here? Can they recover from here? What are the reasons behind India's dismal show? We have two experts here on the show. Anand Vasu, he joins us here, a cricket writer, a journalist, and a cat lover. We also have Vedam Jaishankar, who I can assure you must be absolutely in distress by this performance by India, because we expected more, gentlemen. I mean, you look at this Indian side, these were the top two teams in the World Test Championship cycle. You expect more from India. How shocked were you by India's performance? Let me begin with Vedam and then I'll come to Anand. Vedam?
That question is to me?
Yes.
Look, right on the first day, and even for earlier, I have said these Mumbai guys make great cricket captains, especially when they play against Vidarbha, Services, Maharashtra, those kind of teams. But they can't lead to save their lives. Basically, because they're very defensive in their attitude, defensive in their makeup. So if you look at the various victories that we've had, whether it's 83 or 86 or 2007 or 2011 or whatever, it's not been a Mumbai guy who's been in the lead, because basically because their thinking is defensive, their attitude is defensive, and we saw right on the first day, even before as soon as the toss was over, we mentioned that this is the wrong team, and first and foremost we said let's lose 2-3 wickets, but bat first, don't throw away the toss. And we also said that if they get 300 runs, Australians, their pressure will be relentless, and that's exactly what happened. We bowled poorly. I don't think we had our heart in what we did, and we slipped from one disaster to another disaster. And whether it is bowling, fielding, or even batting, I think we've just collapsed. And I think the captain has to take the blame for most of it, because he's the man in charge, he's at helm, and he chose the wrong team. And I mean, look at it this way: Saurav Ganguly, when he was captain, and they removed that, they brought in that bumper rule. He made Sehwag open the batting, and he went number 3.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with that, because he is protecting an asset, which is what Rohit Sharma should have done. He should have opened maybe with Ajinkya Rahane, and he could have come 3 down, 4 down. There's nothing wrong with it, nothing disgusting. Any good captain will know how to protect his assets, and I don't think Rohit Sharma has been a good captain at all.
Okay, so Rohit Sharma has not been a good captain, but a Bangalore boy is trying to protect another Bangalore boy. I see there's a Rahul Dravid there as well, Vedam. How much of that blame should lie how much of that blame should lie with Rahul Dravid? Because I wonder, just still on, and we are already talking about who should be blamed, and I think that's happening because of the kind of performance that we've seen from India, right? It's the third day today. Things can change, but the way Australia have taken control of this test match and the way in which India found themselves in a situation where they had no idea what is happening to them, I think that has been clearly the thing that stood out for everybody, that here's a team that goes in and you expect so much out of this team. It's a good team. Your bowlers don't have a plan. one plan fails, they don't have plan B. Batters, then we knew that that was going to be a struggle, but Pujara, he's been there for 2 months, shouldering your arms to that delivery. Shubman Gill is acceptable, he's still inexperienced. So I think all of that has led us to this point where we're asking these questions. Your take on it so far?
See, even if it was a one-off occurrence, if this was a game in which the batting collectively failed, it's something that fans might understand and say, it was one bad day in the office. But if you look at it, through the majority of this last cycle of the World Test Championship, this top order has been failing. Whether it's been at home or away, this top order collectively has not really put in one big performance together. Almost every second game you've had to have someone like an Akshar Patel or Ravindra Jadeja or Ashwin bailing out the team from the lower order. Now, that I think is the bigger cause for concern, because it shows that either these batsmen are not able to make the most of their technique and the game that they have. Some of them have been around for years and years. It also shows that the backroom coaching staff isn't able to get the best out of these players, is not able to correct whatever it is that is lacking in them. Because these guys are all players in whom much has been invested over the years. They've been around either the India A or the India setup for many, many years now. So to see this top order feeling like this consistently over a period of time, I think is the biggest cause for concern.
Absolutely. And that then leads me to the next question. Do you think, Vedam, that India were correct in sending the same top 5 batters from 2 years ago? I mean, 18 tests in 2 years since 2021's tour of England, and of these, 4 are in decline.
Yeah, I say, look, we need to work out even the selection committee. You need to revamp the whole selection committee. You need to revamp the captaincy. There was no need to give Rohit Sharma the captaincy at all in the first place, because Kohli had done a great job with it. You spoke earlier about Rahul Dravid, but Rahul may be a conservative batsman, but look at the moves he had made as a captain. He didn't hesitate to declare when Sachin was short of his double hundred, because he was not going after records. He wanted a victory. He's taken a lot of tough decisions as a captain. He's gone and opened the batting with Sehwag, and they've got huge runs. So I think Rahul, the captain, is different from Rahul, the batsman. And you have to understand that. And in any case, it is the captain's responsibility. Cricket is like that. It's not like football. Cricket, the captain makes the call, the first call, the last call, and every single call. But Rohit Sharma has really not covered himself in glory. And the reason I say is it's not Rohit Sharma's fault, because the culture that he comes from, when Sunil Gavaskar was a captain, he could have whacked the third-rate West Indies team and the third-rate Australian team 6-0. But, he was worried about his records, and, we ended up with, I think, 1-0 and 2-0 and things like that. So the mindset itself is different when it's a Bombay captain. And whereas the others are really able to, when I say others, I'm talking of Dhoni, I'm talking of Kapil Dev, they take a chance and they keep the opposition on tenterhooks. And a Mumbai guy is not able to do that, and I'm sure Mumbai are great batsmen, great cricketers, but I'm not sure they're great leaders. They're not at all good leaders. And that is where we really need to work this out. Unless we're able to work that, understand it, I think people who follow cricket know that. People who really follow cricket know that. But it's just that it's an unsaid thing.
No, I think you've made the point of, how you're disappointed in Rohit Sharma's captaincy. I get that. But, I mean, all of it cannot be blamed. Yes?
I said it on the first day.
I know you did. But the thing is, he is the captain. Virat Kohli is not the captain. It is Rohit Sharma. Who else can captain this team right now at this moment? It's going to be a difficult one for them to decide. But having said that, what I also feel is that some of this blame has to be put on the batters themselves. And Anand, I mean, some of the senior batters, and that was the question I asked, and you said the same thing, that your top batters haven't been performing for a while in this World Test Championship cycle. In contrast, look at what Australia have. Look at what a team Australia is. I mean, this is what I was telling Jamie, who was on the show yesterday. I said, it's so difficult for the opposition when you have to first make plans to get David Warner out. Then you have to get Usman Khawaja, who's in his dream, comeback, get him out. Then you have Marnus Labuschagne. Then you have Steve Smith, and then you have Travis Head, and then you have Alex Carey. And you saw the way Indians struggled to even get Alex Carey out. Another reason why the Australians ended up scoring 469. So that's their batting lineup. And you compare that to India's batting lineup, and you know that the moment you have Virat Kohli's wicket, there is no way they can get to a really big total.
Well, yes, I think also that's a factor of the respective bowling attacks of both teams.
Yeah.
While Australia have this bowling attack which is completely relentless. I mean, you have your number 1 and number 2 bowlers, but then number 3, number 4, and number 5 as well were backing up the first 2 bowlers. Whereas you saw how different it was in India's case. When Shami and Siraj were bowling together in the first hour of play and later in the game, batting looked difficult. Batsmen were forced to put on their best defensive avatars, if you will, and make sure that they didn't find the edge or drag one on. They were constantly being tested. But then Shardul Thakur and Umesh Yadav collectively released the pressure so often that the batsmen were able to put the pressure back on the bowling side. This never happened in India's case. When Australia were bowling, Australia was just at the Indian batsmen all the time. Even the backup, Cameron Green, someone who's literally their 5th bowler, was right on the spot and was asking questions of the batsmen. So I think, yes, Indian batting has serious problems, but also the Indian bowling in this test match, the wrong selections to start with, but also Umesh and Shardul have certainly not bowled anywhere near what was needed from them.
Yeah. What you get to see from a champion side, Vedam, is how quickly they adapt to the wicket, the conditions. See the difference in the Australian bowlers, just as Anand was saying. Mitchell Starc, right as he began, he wasn't on the money right away. But the way he came back, then Scott Boland, first change comes in and just knows exactly what length to bowl. To be able to do that, to be able to adjust quickly. Whereas Indian bowlers, I think at one point Matthew Hayden was talking about it in commentary, and he said, I want to know how many balls that India have bowled are hitting the stumps. And by the end of first session, day 2, there were only 43 deliveries that Indian bowlers had bowled that was hitting the stumps. And look at the difference in the way the Aussies were bowling. They quickly realized that they have to keep targeting that off stump. There is uneven bounce. So some balls will stay up. Of course, there's movement. So, and you see the difference that made. It was very quick, the change. But with India, you just didn't see that. Like I said, there was no plan B. First of all, there was no plan A. And then B and C, of course, they didn't even think about. The lack of preparation, what explains this?
See, we can go into the lack of preparations easily, but I don't think any of our bowlers bowled well. If at all, maybe Jadeja. But even the opening bowlers, Shami and Siraj, let themselves down very badly on such a helpful wicket. They should have bowled a lot more incisively. They gave away too many bad deliveries. And when at least they were putting some pressure on the batsmen. But when they were taken away and Umesh Yadav and Shardul Thakur came into bowl, it was like an open season for the batsmen, and they just went out to the bowlers. So I think we made a mistake not only in the choice of team, but also in batting, in fielding first. Because like we said, if Australia had even got 300, forget about 450, even if they had got 300, the pressure would have been relentless. And we said this right the first day, even before the match started. If they get 300, the pressure is going to be relentless. And that's exactly what happened. Because as a bowler, you need to get lucky just once. You just keep bowling on the spot and get lucky even once, that's enough. And that's what has happened. And if Cheteshwar Pujara and Shubman Gill have judged the ball, it's what pressure does to you.
Yeah.
When you're under pressure,
Sorry.
Your reactions are bad.
I know. Continue this, but I'm just going to stop you here and tell you, if India had batted first, there was every possibility that they would have been all out for under 100. Imagine the conditions that you saw on the first day, and then think of the bowlers. Think of the kind of barrage that they would have got from Australia. So, I mean, I don't know what to see. These were better conditions in which when India started batting. And
Yeah,
yet,
but
they
see,
find themselves in a really difficult situation. Yes, go
See,
ahead now, continue.
when the pitch works for your side, for your bowlers, the pressure is on the bowlers, not on the batsmen. The pressure is on the bowlers because they have to deliver, and the pressure was on the Indian bowlers because wicket was helpful in the beginning, and they couldn't deliver. The same thing would have happened to Australia. Let's not forget all these people are undercooked. Maybe they should have played a lot more cricket before coming on to the World Test Championship final. When I say cricket, I mean the longer format of the game. And there is no guarantee that Isaac we can lose one or two early wickets. Doesn't matter. But you win the toss, you bat first. You just don't throw away your toss, and that is something you learn. Which is why I said Rahane could have opened the batting, and somebody like uh, Rohit Sharma could have come number 5, number 6. There's nothing wrong with it. You must protect your assets. That's what captaincy is, and that's what leadership is. And if Rohit Sharma is a more valuable asset than Rahane, it's okay if he goes lower down in the order. There's nothing wrong. He'll be able to do much better rather than playing the moving ball. Now, did he choose to field first because he's an opening batsman and didn't want to play the moving ball? That's what we'll have to see. If it is because of that, then I think it's a very, very, very poor call. He should have just gone for it and gone for broke.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. And I also wonder how much of that decision is made by the coach, by the management as a whole. But yes, what we're seeing now is a team that doesn't seem like they have a plan, a team that, that came with that came underprepared. I mean, I think I'd say that. But Anand, I don't know. I mean, I know that now questions are going to be asked about, IPL, how much of this has to be blamed on IPL, and I think it's silly to do that because IPL has a very important place in Indian cricket, and it should carry on the way it does. But there has to be a way out. I mean, 5 days after the IPL, you're playing this. Of course, a team that hasn't played the IPL has come better prepared. Some may say that these conditions suit their skill, their talent. They know what to do in these conditions. They play here more often. How much of this is about IPL? How much of this is about Shami and Siraj being overcooked? Your take on that?
I think, see, there's very little you can do about it. So when you're in that situation, rather than complain about it, I think the players just need to try and prepare as best as they can within the circumstances. Because the IPL has its window, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
The World Test Championship Final similarly has its window and is being played in England at this time of year. It's not, neither is in a position to be moved around with where the calendar is at the moment. So this is going to happen. We heard even during the IPL that several of the batsmen and the bowlers were doing red ball practice at different times, were looking ahead even while playing this tournament. As far as workload is concerned, someone like Shami is someone who likes to bowl a lot of overs. Now he's bowling 4 overs every 4 or 5 days, which is not a tremendous workload for him. So I don't think in that sense, they came here tired or anything like that. Maybe mentally not as fresh as they would have liked to be. But having said that, this is the situation in world cricket at the moment. There's really nothing that can be done about it. So the players just have to be as professional as they possibly can and tailor their schedules and do what they can to prepare themselves best for the World Test Championship Final happening soon after the IPL. There is really no way around this.
And that's when, the way Steve Smith was batting, one realizes the importance and how special Steve Smith is, because even as the Indian batters were struggling against the Aussie bowlers, Steve Smith loves the oval, and his love affair continued this time again as well. The genius of Steve Smith, I want to talk about him, and Vedam can start that conversation, and then Anand can take that further. Just to see him bat the way he does, with all the fidgetiness that comes with him, with that trigger movement, him coming across, which he started doing again. But somewhere he finds runs and he adapts to the conditions, as I've been saying, This phrase I've been using a lot more. But just the beauty of Steve Smith.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt he's one of the great batsmen of modern cricket. And if you look at his technique, forget about his fidgetiness and other things. But when he meets the ball, it's very close to his body. Time and again, maybe 9 out of 10 times, it's very close to his body, virtually under his eyes. And that is a great asset to have on a wicket where, the ball is doing something. You play late, and he's also very good at judging the ball, the way he leaves, he makes it look very dramatic. But the point is, he's got that extra time. When he plays so late, and he is so confident of himself. They tried to put one backward shot leg for him. There was no use, and he still got around it. So I think, yeah, he's one of the great batsmen. And earlier we were talking about the IPL. My point is, whoever is selected for the World Test Championship, this is once in 2 years, and you take them away a month in advance, and you allow those franchises to have the fifth foreign player. You got to work on a via media. You allow those franchises which have lost the players
Good
to have a
point.
fifth foreign player, and you can still go on with it. IPL will be just as competitive. You'll have your IPL at the same time. Your 18 players or 17 players, they will get a lot of match practice. You go to England in advance, play in those conditions, play a few matches. You'll get into some sort of a rhythm.
Yeah.
And what we saw really today, especially the first day of the test, was absolute lack of rhythm. Whether it was Shami or whether it was Siraj, whoever, maybe they were better than the others, but definitely they were not at their best. And that's a tragedy. And I think BCCI should have some people who think, it's not
Yeah.
just question of collecting the money and going home. If you're coming up to the final, you got to give your players the best chance to make a fist of it. And I don't think we've really helped our players. In fact, we have let them down very poorly.
Absolutely. And the other thing being that once you see this, once you've seen what has happened over the last 2 days, Anand, you wonder whether this was a debacle waiting to unfold. I mean, this dependence on players who are really in their decline. There is no Jasprit Bumrah. You obviously go in with the hope that this team is going to perform well, but historically as well that India have struggled, especially in the first test match in England, without a practice match, without acclimatizing to the conditions. Is that us just, expecting too much out of them?
Well, I think also going into this test match with too many preconceived notions, I think, hurt this team. I think, you don't pick a side for a 5-day game based on whether it is overcast in the half hour before the match actually starts. Because even if it is overcast, then it's not going to be overcast for 5 days in England. That rarely ever happens. The weather does change. So I think India had this very set notion of how the game would unfold. Having picked 4 quick bowlers, then I think the captain forced himself to put the opposition in. I mean, if he had picked a better team to start with, it would have left him more open to batting first, which in retrospect would have been the right thing to do, considering that India's strength, on paper at least, is batting. And you see through the toughest phase of the match, which is the first maybe 2 sessions, and after that back your batsmen to come good. But I think the decision with team composition forced the hand in terms of what they did at the toss. And once Australia, saw that first 1.5 sessions through, and Travis Head then was able to attack the bowlers, it became a completely different game. And Steve Smith is, just Steve Smith. There's really stunning levels of consistency. And the thing about him is when he's in good form, he really makes it count. He rarely makes 100 and then waits 10 test matches for his next one. He's usually, when he's among the runs, he keeps going hard at the opposition bowling. This is a one-off match, so India can breathe a little easy. But I think these are ominous signs for the Ashes as well, the way he's batting.
Oh, absolutely. But for India now, does this batting give you the confidence to start the next WTC cycle? I'm going to start with Vedam and I'll come to Anand.
No, obviously 2 years, I don't think many of these people will be around. I don't expect Rohit Sharma or Cheteshwar Pujara or Ajinkya Rahane to be around. So 2 years is a long, long time in cricket. So I think I'm not even sure if Virat Kohli will be around. It's just that he's fitter than the others. So I think we need to start working right away. and cast our net wider and get a better set of young players who will not be worried about the pitch conditions and other things. I said this on the first day. The older you get, you start playing like a politician, and that's not what we want. We want some good, fearless cricketer. When I mentioned like a politician, you want to take a single, go to the non-strikers, and you don't want to face X, Y, Z. The pitch is not good. You don't want to play there. Those are all politicians' way of playing. Cricketers, especially when you have youth and arrogance on your side, you're not bothered who the opposition is. You're willing to take on anybody. You want to pull down their reputation. And that's what we need to work on, because many of the batsmen who really done well are when they're younger. As they grow older, then a lot of doubts creep in. Can I do it? Will I do it? Should I do it? All sorts of doubts creep in. And I feel that Rohit Sharma himself fielding first is part of that doubts.
Now, talking about Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli is one thing, but what about the youngsters like Shubman Gill? A lot was expected of him, but can you really blame him with that kind of bowling and the kind of delivery that he got? I'm going to ask you two questions, Anand. One is, can Shubman Gill really be blamed when your more experienced batters are getting out that way? And Pujara, who's been parked in England for 2 months playing Division 2, and this is the second time that he's been called after good performance in Division 2, and has let this team down. How do you explain Pujara's reaction to that delivery when Shubman Gill, yes, we understand, he's now got that experience?
Yeah, and Gill hasn't played that much in England. I think that was he let it go on length, expecting the bounce to take it over the stumps rather than misjudgment of line. As to Pujara's case, yes, he's made a lot of runs in England, but as you pointed out, it is in Division 2. And Division 2 bowling attacks and Australian bowling attack are completely different things. That said, he should, we keep expecting more out of these players. And as Jay pointed out, most of them are well past their prime and their best days. So there needs to be some sort of transition plan that should have been put in place. I think, you don't want to be dropping 4 of your 6 batsmen altogether in one go. There should have been some sort of a transition phase that happened. And it looked like that was beginning when Pujara and Rahane were left out. But then Pujara, with his sheer weight of runs, forced himself back into the team. And other batsmen perhaps didn't get enough chances consistently in the Test batting 11 to establish themselves. Someone like Surya was in and out. Shreyas Iyer injured and didn't play perhaps as much as he could have. But now, certainly in the next 2-year cycle, I'd be very surprised if anyone aside from Kohli even lasted the entire cycle. So again, in the transition, it needs to be well planned, well thought out. Who are your replacements for which batsmen at which positions, and give them a decent run. Because if you don't do that, then they're not going to get a chance to establish themselves. And they're forever going to be compared with people with longer careers and legacy numbers.
Absolutely. Okay, this is a question that we're asking all of you. First of all, how disappointed are you? Are you shocked by India's performance, and what can they do to recover from here? Can anything be done? So do let us know in the comment section below what you think of India's performance. We'll continue this conversation. We'll also try to look at areas where India needs to improve. What can India do to make sure that something like this does not happen again? And ironically, these questions are mostly asked after this kind of a performance, because more often than not, Vedam, it's about IPL, it's about how India are doing well at home. It's only when they tour abroad and when you see this collective failure from their bowlers, their batters, that these questions are asked. And that's why I'm asking you now. You're talking about having a transition plan. What can that plan be? Because like Anand was saying, that you can't have, 4 of them retiring or 4 of them moving on. But what can be now the plan? What should India look to do? Because clearly in the next WTC cycle, you don't want something like this happening.
It's not just 4 of them. I don't expect Shami to be around. I don't expect Ashwin to be around, And I think there's going to be, I don't expect Shardul Thakur to be around. So I don't expect Umesh Yadav to be around. So I think there's a lot of changes to be made. And if at all we have gone with this India A tours and with a lot of sincerity and got some good players, then I think we'll be well served. But look, Shubman Gill's age is actually no bar for him. He's got to believe in himself. Because if you look at the former players who really came good, whether it was Gundappa Vishwanath or Sunil Gavaskar or Sachin Tendulkar, they didn't give their age as an excuse, and there are many others. Rahul Dravid, VVS Lakshman. They didn't give their age as excuse because they believed in themselves and they went around delivering. So that's exactly what you need. You need batsmen who believe in themselves and not leave it to a Kohli or a Rohit Sharma or somebody else to take the brunt of it. And that is where I think we need to work a lot. We need to work a lot on their mind space. Some of them are born naturally tough, but many others, you really need to work on their toughness. And we need to get people not for their ability to bat or bowl or whatever, but the right mindset. That's very important. You could have flaws in your technique, but if you are, mentally very strong, you will overcome a lot of things. And we've seen time and again. You gave a brilliant example of Steve Smith. He has got all sort of idiosyncrasies, but when it comes to really batting, he
Yeah.
is so tough, and he's a great example. And I think India also should look for these guys who are mentally tough, not look at techniques and other things. And especially with their A-team tours. See, a lot of these A-team tours are, to curry favors for a vote here or a vote there. I think we need to move out of that and choose the A-team really on merit and ensure that it feeds your senior team. Till that happens, I think we'll struggle all the time.
How much of this can be blamed on Rahul Dravid, Anand?
Uh, See, if someone like Rahul Dravid, with his formidable batting pass and his mental strength, is unable to instill that or get the best out of that in the current players, I'm not sure who else would be in a better place to do so. We don't obviously know exactly what's going on behind the scenes, one on one with different batsmen. But you can't tell me surely that someone like Pujara or Rahane or Rohit, with the amount of cricket that they have already played, need their coach at the international level to be able to help them to be mentally strong enough to make runs. I think the players do get all the inputs they need. I don't think there is a deficiency in that sense. I think part of the problem is also stems from the desperation from this team and management to get to the World Test Championship final. So, in order to do that, we're gaming the system a little bit, playing in very extreme conditions at home most of the time. We're playing on pitches that turn and have variable bounce from literally day one, which has the effect of taking away all the strengths of the opposition. But what it also does is that it ensures that none of your batsmen are in any kind of rhythm. If you look at even India's home series in the last few series, you've not seen the big scores, the big hundreds, or even the big team totals on any kind of regular basis. So you playing in these extreme spin-friendly conditions to get to the World Test Championship final, but obviously in the World Test Championship final, you're not going to get those conditions. So it's like you've taken one route to get there, but now you are faced with a completely different kind of canvas to work with, which is not going to work, I think, in the long run. You must get to that final organically. You must play in your cycle, home and away series against good teams. And if you do win more than you lose and do better than other sides, then you will get to the final. But you will also get to the final fully equipped to take on the challenges that are on offer.
Absolutely. And the other thing being then, if you make a wrong decision when it comes to your playing 11, which we saw with them in the last World Test Championship final, where they went in with two spinners in overcast conditions, it was raining, and ultimately you didn't need Ravindra Jadeja. He hardly bowled, and India lost that game. Kyle Jamieson got a lot of wickets. So my thing is, once you've made that decision, and it's a big decision where you've gone wrong, first of all, to not get Ravichandran Ashwin into the playing 11. Number one test bowler, number two test all-rounder, close to 500 wickets. firstly to keep him out, and then you see what a big mistake you've made. Does that play on your mind, and is that one of the big reasons then you don't know what to do? You kind of freeze as a captain. You made the mistake, now what can you do? And then you have Nathan Lyon, who bowls like the way he was bowling yesterday, gets Jadeja out. How big a reason is that?
See, I don't think you can compare Southampton to the Oval. It's totally different. Pitches are different. Their behavior is different. Everything is totally different. So I don't think that comparison is valid at all. But having said that, look at a guy like Nathan Lyon. He knows 100% he's going to play. Ravichandran Ashwin doesn't know if he's going to play. He's got to wait on a whole lot of other things, other people to decide whether they want to play a spinner or they want to play a fast bowler. And let's not forget, Australia, they play pace bowlers from the time they're 7 or 8 years of age. They can play fast bowlers, with their eyes closed. You are playing to their strength. Why would you do that? Any sane person will play to your strength, not to the strength of the opposition. And I think, like we said the very first day, even before the match started, that India missed a trick. And that is the trick. And we never thought that it is going to hit us so badly. But it's really hit you so badly now that you're just staring down barrel. It'll be a miracle if you don't lose this test. It'll be a real miracle because all the odds are with the Aussies and they know how to win. They'll keep pressurizing you till they really get the result that they want. So I think we have played poorly. You asked earlier about Rahul Dravid. What is Rahul Dravid's strength? His strength is working on juniors, working on their mindset, getting the juniors across. You brought him as a coach of the Indian team not because he was Rahul Dravid. You wanted to get rid of somebody else. And to get rid of somebody else, you needed a big name. And the big name was Rahul Dravid. Nobody would talk about it. So, which is what I'm saying. The Indian cricket team, whether, this entire setup, it's filled with a whole lot of intimacy in games. Everybody is playing games, whether it is the selectors, whether it's the board members. And the Indian cricket is actually struggling. And they're struggling not because we don't have the personnel. They're struggling because people are playing games.
Okay, what can the team do now? Vedam saying that you need a miracle. Anand, can they recover from here?
I don't really see how that's going to happen. I mean, when your top order bats as it is, expecting the lower order to come and pull off some kind of miracle, I think is, a bit much. You never lose hope because there's still plenty of cricket to be played in this test match. But I think there definitely has to be a shift in mindset now. Naturally the batting pushes on for as long as it can. But when Australia bat again, if they do, then the bowlers need to make it really hard for them to score runs because India should look at least first to try and get off with the draw, maybe with a little help from some weather later in the test match. Because at least if it's a drawn game, the World Test Championship is shared and not lost. Make Australia fight hard. I think that's the aim for India from here on because Australia hold all the aces at the moment. They have, everything is stacked in their favor, and they're not going to let up. They're going to be relentless in their, when they have India down on the mat, they're not going to let them back into the game easily. So India's only thing from here on is to try and make it as difficult for Australia as possible.
Absolutely. The one player that I think India is missing the most right now is Rishabh Pant, and difference that he's made in this World Test Championship cycle, Anand. Even for India against England, in these conditions, more often than not, you've seen those batters between 4 and 6, 7 who get the runs, especially if it's difficult conditions in the first hour or two. How much are they missing him, Rishabh Pant, and what he's been doing for this Indian team? I think it's all the more important now the way he was batting for them, no?
Massively, yeah. They're missing him big time for sure. Because it's not just the quality of batting that he brings, it's also the counter-attacking kind of play he brings, coming in at number 5. I mean, this is what you saw Head doing for Australia in the first innings. Pant played a very similar kind of role, and even better perhaps than Head did on many occasions, bailing the team out. When I was talking earlier of the lower order, kind of covering up for the mistakes of the top order. I didn't mention Pant, and I should have led with that.
Yeah.
Thank you for pointing that out. But yeah, they're missing him big time. But I don't know. I don't see when he's going to come back. So again, it's a case of trying to see how you can make up for that. And I think at one point they thought Surya Kumar Yadav could play that role in home conditions, but they're not confident that he can do that overseas. Which, with barely giving the guy a chance, I don't think it's fair to write him off. You have to look at options. If you've got one player who's ruled out for whatever reason, and in this case through a very serious accident and injury, then you need to have the personnel to back up and fill that role. Nobody is going to perhaps be as effective as Pant in doing what he does, but you have to have someone who at least can step up and be as similar a replacement as possible.
You know how India can win the World Test Championship final? The next time is if they make the neutral venue somewhere in the Asian subcontinent, Vedam. That'll be perfect because in the way India plays at home, that's probably the only way I'm seeing, because if you're going to go in the kind of conditions that they've been given in England for a one-off test match, it's going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy for them. And that's what you're seeing here. Australia are not just better prepared, they are just a better team in these conditions.
So if we are not well prepared, whose mistake is it? It's not the Australians' mistake. It's not England's mistake. We knew when the WTC final was going to be played. I don't think we took it with any seriousness. And if you really thought that people will come from IPL at 44 degrees or 45 degrees temperature in Ahmedabad and step into London, which is 14 degrees or 15 degrees, and do well, I think that's crazy. I really think that is crazy. And right from the beginning, I mean, anybody can tell you that these guys are really, they are fighting the weather, they're fighting the pitch, they're fighting the opponents. And that is really not what you want them to do. Like I said earlier, let them come 1 month in advance, make them play a lot of practice matches, get used to the conditions. And then if they lose, they lose. I mean, you can't say. But right now, I think they're playing with one hand tied behind their back. And that's not good, because that speaks very poorly of the board. You can turn around and say it's the richest board in the world. But does the board even plan anything? I don't think so. They just let a team go, and then they're up for grabs. Whoever does whatever they want, they should do. They just hope that. Having said that, I think it's time we started looking at 21, 22, 23-year-old batsmen, because good batsmen are usually come in at a very young age. They are not 27, 28-year-old batsmen. They are 21, 22, 23. And we've seen time and again, they are in the early 20s. We need to identify those guys and give them a run. Give them a run and give them some confidence. Whether it is Gundappa Vishwanath or Sunil Gavaskar, Sachin Tendulkar, they all came in very young age. Dilip Vengsaka, classic example. They all came in at a very early age. And so we have the template for that. It's just that you need to carry on the template and not get hold of a lot of these batsmen who are not even sure if they're going to be there for the next game. And that's a real sad commentary. And I think the board has to take a lot of blame for this.
I'm going to take that point that you made, Vedam, earlier on to Anand and ask him whether that's even viable, that's doable. Is that you already have decided who your players are going to be for the World Test Championship final, like they did this time around before the IPL. Do you see that somewhere they can be more prepared for this, Anand? I mean, I know there's an IPL on and none of the players would want to miss the IPL. But I'm just trying to find a way around it. Is that even doable?
I think it's an interesting suggestion to pull the players out of the IPL early, but it's not one that any franchise is going to allow to happen without putting up a serious fight. They'll be kicking and screaming because they build their teams around these players, big Indian players. I can't see Royal Challengers Bangalore letting Virat Kohli go for 1 month of the IPL just because there's World Test Championship final happening. They have paid for his services for a certain period of time, whether it is, and it's not just for runs and wickets. It's also as part of, his face on the television screen every other day is selling, scores of products. for the team and for others. So I don't see anyone letting go of that in any way. Unless the World Test Championship final is played at a different time of the year, you're going to be stuck with this problem. I can't see a way around pulling players out of the IPL.
There's always rain. There's always rain that can help India now. Vedam, how do you see? Is there a recovery? Should they look to somehow draw the game? What should they look to go? Of course, I think Indians should start praying for rain. But
Celestial pardon. That's what we want for all the goof ups that we have done. No, actually, the IPL, when I said it's not 1 month, because I think from the IPL final to the start of this, there were about 10, 12 days. So you're talking of another 2 weeks. That's all it is. And I think 2 weeks, if you give them the fifth foreign player, many of these franchises will be happy. The sponsors may not be happy, the agents may not be happy. I mean, that's okay, doesn't matter. We just need to look at Indian cricket as a totality and not worry about all these people. We need to get along with it. But pinning your hopes on rain and something else, I think that's crazy. I think you need to really look and see that if you can salvage this test, because I have a feeling that if India are going to follow on. Australians will not enforce the follow on. They would like their other batsmen who have not got runs to prepare themselves for the Ashes. So we are looking at maybe the fourth innings chase of 500 runs or something. So I don't think Australians will be too worried about enforcing the follow on, and I don't think it will happen, especially if we have a huge deficit. India has a huge deficit.
okay, so I think they're 118 runs away from the follow-on. Anand, do you agree as well? I think that's a good strategy. And Australia, in fact, this is what we were talking about before this match began. We said, you know what, India have the edge because Australia are going in with that thought that they also have to play the Ashes, and somewhere we know Ashes is hugely important for Australia. But having said that, I feel like they've come more prepared because they know they're first going to play this World Test Championship final and then carry on with the Ashes. And somewhere you feel like they're in that mindset of wanting to win, wanting to score runs, wanting to bowl well. And India are just caught off guard with this one-off test match, which is, there is nothing behind it, there is nothing ahead of it. Is that something you think that has been the difference as well in terms of preparation?
Well, Australia certainly are in test match mode at the moment.
Yeah.
No two ways about that. I think only 3 of Australia's players took part in the IPL, and even that didn't really have very much to do towards the second half of it. So mentally, certainly they were switched on to Test cricket. How they prepared behind the scenes, we don't know, but Australia are famous for getting that part of it right. So yes, I think Australia gave themselves the best possible chance. India perhaps did not do that, and the results are kind of unfolding in front of us.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. As for the follow-on.
Yeah, as to the follow-on, I don't see that being enforced. Australia at the best of times don't do that against most opposition, and India has, served them some painful reminders in the past. So and there is no need to, with 3 days left in the game and no serious threat of, like 2 days being washed out. As of now, the forecast is good for the best part of the 3 days. So they won't be thinking about the weather or anything like that. As Jay put it, why not, bat India completely out of the game and leave them with something like 500, 550 even, to chase in the final innings. Then it just means that then India has no option but to play defensively, because you can't really go for that kind of a target. You know that in your heart of hearts that you're not going to get over the line chasing 550 in a test match, fourth innings. So that means that the mindset also for the bats becomes a bit more negative, a bit more conservative in trying to save the game rather than trying to just bat positively and normally. So everything points to Australia just, trying to keep India down to as little as they can, and perhaps batting the best part of a day before giving India, maybe 5 sessions.
That's the other thing. I saw even in their body language, and from day one I'm saying this, not just yesterday when, Australia had shown that they were in complete control, is that at no point from the beginning of the test match to till last evening at Stumps, did you feel any change in their body language? And what explains that, Vedam? The fact that you didn't see India really coming hard. The only time I saw Indian bowlers actually going hard at Australia was that brief period when Travis Head was on 98. You know, when you really saw Siraj and Shami giving it their best, you know, you saw that they were not going to let him get to his 100 easily. But anything before and after that, absolute, you know, what do I say? Like, there was no intent really from them.
Yeah, see, it's difficult to get your intensity going right through. You know, you had 2 months of IPL and then again you come here. And if things go well for you, then there'll be a lot of intensity right through. But the very fact that things didn't go well for you and your other bowlers are also not performing well is very difficult for you to G yourself up and you know come up with the goods. And I think that's where India has really failed because the second line bowlers are not as good. The first line bowlers were not at the best of their talent or best of their abilities. And combined, I think at least if one or two of them really bowled well, you know, it could have made a lot of difference. But I don't think a single bowler, including Siraj and Shami, bowled like that they are capable of bowling. You know, especially on that pitch, we thought they'll do a lot more, and they just didn't do it. And it's difficult for you to really, get into that mindset where you want to dominate when
Yeah.
you are not so confident about your ability to strike a rhythm and put the ball in the right place. And I think that's what has happened. They might have got a couple of easy or cheap wickets, but once they came against somebody willing to take the match to them, like Travis Head, I don't think they had a plan at all. And
They
he
didn't.
kept cutting and pulling, like, you know, he was playing some friendly game. And suddenly you saw him racing away, and they had no answer to that. So I think the body language, something that has to do with the body language. Because when things are not going well, your way, you should be able to bowl defensively and ensure you don't let boundaries go. But I don't think we did that. We just allowed them to build up a huge total and put pressure on
Absolutely.
ourselves.
Absolutely. So 318 is what India trailed by. Vedam Jaishankar and Anand Vasu, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to us. Now, only a miracle can save India. But what India can do at the moment is that they can fight back. They can fight harder. They can, they can come back and show all their fans why they're loved, why everybody loves this team. They've done this before. They have bounced back, but they've found themselves now in a position where it's going to be difficult. But can they show some mental resilience? Can they just keep fighting? Can Ajinkya Rahane just keep at it at the crease with KS Bharat? You know, try to put on a total. That's what is expected out of them. It's a difficult thing to do, given the conditions, given how well Australian bowlers are bowling. But that's what's expected out of this Indian team. That's it from us. Hope you enjoyed this show. News 9 Live is what you need to subscribe to for all the latest from the world of cricket, from the world of sports. That's it. Goodbye. Thanks for watching.